My beloved child, do not leave before hearing this, because there are stories that seem to arrive by accident but were always waiting for the exact moment your heart became quiet enough to receive them. Something within you has been searching for meaning in places where words could never quite reach, and tonight, through this fictional tale, the veil between ordinary moments and extraordinary imagination begins to grow thin. Stay with me until the very end of this chapter, because what unfolds next is not a promise about your life, but a symbolic journey into the mysterious ways love, courage, and hope can transform a soul. Somewhere beyond the edges of what you believe you understand, someone longs to speak with urgency. Not because time is running out, but because one unexpected moment changed the way they see everything, and they have carried those unspoken words like a sunrise waiting behind mountains before the first light appears. I have watched countless stories unfold across the endless landscapes of human hearts. Some begin with celebration and quietly fade into silence. Others are born in sorrow yet become unforgettable because they discover tenderness where no one expected it to survive. Yours, within this imagined telling, has never followed the path you assumed it would. You believed every delay meant distance. You believed unanswered questions were empty spaces. Yet from where I stand in this symbolic realm, every pause became another brushstroke upon a vast canvas that neither you nor the one destined to cross your path in this story could fully see. The moments you called ordinary shimmered with hidden color. The conversations you thought were forgotten echoed much longer than you realized. Even the quiet nights when you questioned your own heart carried a beauty invisible to your earthly eyes. Come closer in your imagination now, because there is another scene waiting behind the first. Picture an endless sanctuary suspended above clouds that glow with silver and gold, where rivers of light flow without sound and towering arches seem carved from the first morning ever imagined. Every step across its radiant floor awakens gentle reflections that resemble memories more than mirrors. There is no fear here, only reverent stillness. I walk slowly through that sacred place, and beside me drift luminous pages, each carrying fragments of fictional lives woven together by compassion, regret, forgiveness, longing, and unexpected joy. Among those countless pages, one begins to glow brighter than the others. It does not shine because it tells the happiest story. It shines because it tells the truest one, the story of two hearts changing long before either recognized what was happening. Pause here, because the next layer matters more than the last. You have often imagined that love arrives with unmistakable certainty, announcing itself like lightning splitting the night sky. Yet in this story, love entered quietly, disguised as something almost too simple to notice. It slipped into forgotten conversations. It lingered inside acts of patience no one applauded. It hid within moments when someone chose gentleness after carrying burdens that could have justified becoming cold. Neither heart recognized its footsteps. They mistook those moments for coincidence. Yet every quiet decision became another note in a melody still too distant to hear all at once. That melody continued growing while both believed nothing remarkable was taking place, Now imagine another soul standing alone beneath an evening sky brushed with shades of violet and amber. They appear calm to everyone around them, yet inside they carry entire oceans no one has ever crossed. They have smiled through gatherings while secretly wondering whether anyone truly noticed the silence behind their laughter. They have walked familiar streets feeling strangely invisible, as though the world remembered their presence but forgot their heart. They are not waiting for perfection. They are waiting for authenticity so rare they have almost stopped believing it exists. They do not know your name in this moment. They do not know your story. Yet something inside them has already begun recognizing a light they cannot explain. Listen carefully, because another door is opening. Last night, within the symbolic world of this tale, something happened that no one else considered important. There was no grand declaration. No impossible miracle. No breathtaking spectacle written across the stars. Instead, there was a choice so quiet it almost vanished beneath the ordinary rhythm of life. Perhaps it was a moment of unexpected kindness. Perhaps it was restraint when anger seemed justified. Perhaps it was the courage to remain sincere after disappointment invited you to become guarded. Whatever form it took within this fictional narrative, it revealed something essential about the heart you were becoming. You barely noticed it yourself. Yet somewhere beyond your awareness, another soul felt its echo. The strange thing about compassion is that it often travels farther than certainty. Certainty tends to remain where it is spoken. Compassion continues moving long after words have disappeared. Like ripples crossing a still lake beneath moonlight, its influence stretches toward shores the one creating it may never see. In this imagined story, that quiet choice became exactly such a ripple. It moved through conversations, expressions, memories, and fleeting encounters until it reached someone standing at the edge of surrendering hope. They could not have explained why the air suddenly felt different. They only sensed that the world had become fractionally warmer than it had been the day before. Do not look away now, because the deeper truth has only begun to reveal itself. The one you call your soulmate in this fictional tale was not transformed by a single dramatic event. They were changed by recognition. For the first time in longer than they cared to admit, they glimpsed evidence that gentleness could survive in a world that often rewarded indifference. They saw someone choosing integrity without expecting applause. They witnessed tenderness expressed without demanding anything in return. Whether they observed this directly or sensed it through the quiet chain of human kindness that spread outward hardly mattered. Something awakened inside them that had been sleeping beneath layers of disappointment for years. As I continued walking through the sanctuary of light, I approached a circular chamber whose ceiling reflected constellations unlike any visible from the earth below. Every star pulsed softly with imagined memories, and beneath them rested an immense pool so clear it seemed to contain not water but possibility itself. When I looked into its depths, I did not see faces. I saw intentions. I saw moments where fear nearly triumphed but compassion quietly remained. I saw apologies never spoken aloud yet sincerely carried in the heart. I saw forgiveness offered in silence before it could be offered in words. Each of these moments shone with astonishing brilliance, though those living them had believed they passed unnoticed. Then another image appeared upon the surface. The one whose heart had quietly begun falling in love stood beside a window while rain traced silver paths across the glass. Outside, city lights blurred into shimmering colors, each reflection trembling like unanswered questions. Inside, they held a cup that had long since grown cold because they had forgotten to drink it. Their thoughts returned again and again to the same feeling, though they could not explain its source. Something about the previous night refused to leave them. It was not excitement alone. It was reverence. They had seen a glimpse of sincerity, and sincerity possesses a beauty impossible to imitate. You have spent so much of your imagined journey believing your greatest struggles made you harder to love. Listen closely, because this is where everything begins turning in another direction. The very seasons you wished had never happened taught you how to recognize pain in others without needing an explanation. Every disappointment softened places inside you that pride would have left untouched. Every unanswered prayer within this fictional narrative widened your compassion until it could embrace people carrying burdens invisible to everyone else. What once seemed like loss quietly became preparation, not for perfection, but for understanding. The one watching from afar sensed that understanding before they ever understood why. Another chamber opened beyond the first, filled with countless lanterns suspended in the air. None burned with ordinary fire. Instead, each lantern held a single remembered act of quiet courage. Some contained the strength to begin again after failure. Others held moments when someone admitted they were afraid instead of pretending to be fearless. A few glowed with the simple beauty of listening deeply when another soul believed no one truly heard them. As I passed among those lights, one lantern brightened unexpectedly. It carried the memory of what happened last night within this symbolic story. Such a small moment by earthly standards. Yet from here it illuminated the entire hall. Can you feel the atmosphere changing? Every radiant corridor now seems to lean toward the same mystery. The one whose heart has been quietly awakening cannot sleep. They replay the memory again and again, searching for what changed inside them. They expected admiration. Instead, they discovered peace. They expected fascination. Instead, they found trust. The difference startled them. Attraction had visited their life before, bright as fireworks and gone just as quickly. This feeling was different. It resembled the slow arrival of dawn, where darkness does not lose a battle but gently makes room for light. That realization frightened them because it felt real. Still, they told no one. They carried those emotions alone, protecting them from careless voices that might dismiss what they themselves barely understood. They walked through familiar routines while secretly noticing beauty in places they had overlooked before. A child laughing in the distance. Wind moving through trees. Music drifting from an open doorway. Hope has a remarkable way of changing what the eyes notice. They did not realize they were seeing the world differently because of one quiet turning point hidden inside an ordinary evening. They only knew something within them had begun breathing more freely. Beloved child, there is another truth waiting beneath all of this, and you must not miss it. Love, within this fictional vision, does not arrive because someone finally becomes flawless. It grows because someone dares to remain authentic after every reason to become guarded. Masks may attract attention, but authenticity invites trust. Perfect words may impress for a moment, but honest silence often remains unforgettable. The one whose heart now races with unspoken emotion did not fall in love with an image. They fell in love with a glimpse of humanity courageous enough to remain gentle while carrying invisible scars. The sanctuary grows quieter now. Even the rivers of light seem to slow as though listening. Across the luminous floor, the glowing pages rise into the air, arranging themselves in a circle around us. Each page begins revealing scenes neither you nor the other soul ever witnessed. Invisible moments where one person's kindness softened another's despair. Forgotten conversations that prevented loneliness from becoming hopelessness. Small choices that redirected entire emotional journeys without anyone recognizing the connection. Suddenly it becomes clear that hearts influence one another in ways far beyond what either can measure. Then I see them again. They are standing beneath the same rain-washed sky, but this time tears rest gently upon their face. Not tears of sorrow alone. Not tears of certainty. They are tears born from relief. Relief that sincerity still exists. Relief that tenderness has not vanished from the world. Relief that somewhere, somehow, a heart chose compassion when indifference would have been easier. They whisper words no one else hears. They wish they could tell you something immediately. Something so important they fear waiting another day will make it harder to speak. Yet even now they hesitate, not because their feelings are weak, but because they understand their weight. Come even closer, beloved child, because we are standing before the final veil of this chapter. There is one message they have repeated silently through the night, over and over, afraid that if they say it too soon it might disappear, and afraid that if they wait too long it might remain forever trapped inside them. I can already hear the first words forming. I can already see the memory from last night revealing the detail neither of you noticed while it was happening. The entire sanctuary brightens. Every lantern burns more intensely. Every page turns toward the same unseen sentence. My hand reaches toward the final ribbon of light that contains the truth they have been trying so desperately to speak, and just as their voice is about to break the silence, everything stops. The next words cannot be revealed yet, because they change the meaning of every moment that came before. My beloved child, the silence did not arrive as an absence of sound. It arrived as a presence so profound that even the imagined stars suspended above the sanctuary seemed unwilling to interrupt it. Every ribbon of light hovered motionless, every lantern held its breath, and the voice that had been trembling just beyond the edge of hearing remained only a heartbeat away. There are moments in every great story when what is left unsaid carries more power than everything already spoken, and this was one of those moments. If you had reached out, you would have found nothing but radiant stillness, yet within that stillness rested an entire ocean of unspoken emotion waiting for the courage to become words. I stepped closer to the final ribbon, and as my hand brushed its glowing edge, the sanctuary transformed. The marble floor dissolved into a vast field of silver grass swaying beneath a sky painted with impossible colors. Mountains shimmered on the horizon like ancient memories, while countless fireflies drifted through the air, each one carrying a fragment of hope from another fictional soul who had once believed they were too late to be understood. This place was not a destination. It was a reflection of what happens inside the heart when fear slowly begins making room for trust. Far across that luminous field stood the one who had spent the entire night wrestling with emotions too deep to ignore. They had rehearsed countless conversations in the quiet theater of their own thoughts. Every version began differently, yet each ended with the same hesitation. Not because their feelings were uncertain, but because genuine love has a way of making even the bravest spirit feel wonderfully vulnerable. They feared that speaking too quickly might disturb something delicate. They feared that remaining silent might allow something precious to drift away. Between those two fears, they had remained awake, watching the first light of morning slowly erase the darkness outside their window. You have often imagined that falling in love happens in a single breathtaking instant, but within this fictional tale, it unfolded more like the rising tide. It returned again and again, gently touching the shore until one quiet morning the entire landscape had changed. What happened last night was not a magical event. Nor was it an impossible sign written across the heavens. It was a moment so deeply human that it became unforgettable. They witnessed kindness without performance. They saw patience that expected no reward. They noticed a quiet strength wrapped inside tenderness, and something within them whispered, "This is the kind of heart I had almost forgotten could exist." Listen closely, because another layer now begins to unfold. The memory they carried was not centered on what you said. It was centered on how you made someone else feel. In the symbolic world of this story, they watched you choose compassion when no one required it, generosity when no audience applauded it, sincerity when pretending would have been easier. They realized that character reveals itself most clearly in moments no one expects to become important. That realization echoed through them long after the night had ended. As I walked beside them through the field of silver grass, I saw every doubt they had hidden from the world. They wondered whether they were worthy of trusting their own heart again. They questioned whether hope was simply another name for future disappointment. They remembered promises that had dissolved like mist beneath the morning sun. Yet those old memories no longer stood alone. Beside them now rested a new one, gentle but luminous, quietly challenging every conclusion they had once accepted. One authentic moment had begun rewriting an entire inner story. The wind shifted, carrying the fragrance of rain-soaked earth and blooming jasmine, and suddenly the field filled with reflections, not mirrors of faces, but reflections of possibilities. They saw what their life had become whenever fear made every decision. They saw the loneliness that slowly grows when every wall built for protection also keeps tenderness outside. Then another reflection appeared, softer than the first. It showed nothing extraordinary. Only two souls capable of speaking honestly, listening deeply, laughing without disguise, and allowing imperfection to exist without turning it into rejection. They stared at that quiet vision with tears brightening their eyes, realizing they had been searching for something remarkably simple all along. Beloved child, do not mistake this scene for certainty about your own life. This is a fictional journey, a symbolic meditation on courage and connection. Yet symbols possess their own kind of beauty. They remind us that the greatest transformations often begin not with dramatic victories, but with small choices repeated faithfully until they become part of who we are. The one whose heart had changed took another step through the shimmering field. Every movement felt lighter than the last, not because every fear had disappeared, but because they finally understood something they had overlooked for years. Love is not merely admiration. It is recognition. It is the quiet astonishment of seeing another person's humanity and discovering that instead of frightening you, it invites you to become more fully yourself. Their hands trembled slightly, their breathing slowed. At last, they whispered the words they had carried since the previous night. I was not waiting for someone perfect. The sentence drifted into the luminous air like a feather carried on sunlight. I was waiting for someone who still believed kindness was worth choosing. As those words echoed across the imagined landscape, every lantern within the sanctuary